This sporting great discovered his tremendous ability by accident while serving Queen and country. His talent allowed him to become one of the most successful and charismatic British athletes of recent times. His booming pace almost matches his booming laugh. He is Chris Akabusi. Chris, first of all, are we going to get through this interview without you laughing like that? Obviously not. Obviously not. It is a trademark for you, I have to say, as much as your sporting prowess was. It's a fantastic laugh. Where did you get it from?
I'll tell you something, Eamon. When I was a kid, I always used to get into trouble, not because they used to see me, but because they could hear me.
They could hear you coming.
If anything was going on, they'd say, Akabusi, come out, we know you're there, we can hear you laughing. In fact, at school they used to say to me, Akabusi, shut up, stop laughing and sit down. And the funny thing is, I've earned my money by getting up, running around and laughing, but that's a different story. It's funny, even today when I'm out and about in the streets, people come up to me and say, Chris, come on, give us laugh. That's what you're famous for. I think Olympic medals, world champion medals. Okay.
Yeah. You know, when you really look back in your life, you know, especially as a youngster, maybe you could say there wasn't a lot to laugh about. It was quite a complicated situation. I mean, just explain to people what happened with you and your parents and how you ended up living for a long period of time in a children's home.
In the mid-50s, my parents come across from Nigeria to study. My mother was studying nursing up in Blackburn Infirmary, and my father was studying economics at the London School of Economics. They met together. My brother and myself come along later on in life, and they went back to Nigeria, both qualified. Now, both of them were on a sponsorship, so it was very important for my mother and my father, when they went back, to actually contribute to the society. And after a year or so in Nigeria, they decided, along with the elders in our community, that my brother and I, would be better off in the UK going for a British education, which was really highly valued in Nigeria back in those days. And so we came to the UK. My mother and father continued to send money across, and we were being fostered. But in 1967, there was a big civil war in Nigeria, and my mother and my father were both affected, lost contact with us, and then my brother and I ended up in a children's home. And what was supposed to be for a short time ended up being 10 years.
And did you ever re-establish contact with your mum and dad?
Well, my mother, in 1975, we'd been in care now for 7 years, going on 8 years. Eventually, in 1975, my mother tracked us down. And I remember everyone telling me, look, your mother's coming to see you and how great that's going to be. But I was playing football in the garden with all the other boys. We lived in the children's home, 20 of us there. We were playing football. And I remember this brightly coloured, ornate woman walking along the road and into the drive. And you could see this great big African headwear and huge wrappers shining in the sun. I looked up, saw that, carried on playing football. Out comes one of the aunties, we used to call them aunties. Keezy, which was my name then. Keezy, your mum's here. Yeah, nice one. Kept on playing football. Keezy, your mum's here. Nice one. They dragged me into the room to see my mum. And I saw this woman, but she was just that. She was a woman. There was no sort of paternal or maternal or sort of like instinct between myself and them. It was just another lady.
And that's the way it was to be. So therefore, though it sounds sad, are you telling me that your existence in various foster homes and then the children's home that you were in, it wasn't sad to you, it was norm to you?
Yeah. I mean, this was life. I mean, I think that children, certainly I was very, very resilient. This was life. And I was having a cracking life. There were a lot of kids to play with, go to the park with, walk your dog with, to play football with. Went to school. I was always in a big pack of guys. You know, we could all look after ourselves. Life was cool. I mean, everyone used to say to me, you're the poor boy from the children's home, but really, I didn't feel poor. This was just my life. I got on with it.
From one institution to another, from one home to another, the army then became your home. Whose idea was it to enlist?
Well, I had a few choices when I was in the home. I went to the careers office. I could have been a gas fitter. I could have been a mechanical electrical engineer. Could have been a road sweeper. I looked at all these sort of jobs, but the most important thing for me was, if I did those jobs, I was still going to have to look after myself. That means have a roof over my head, cook for myself, fend for myself. Having had 12 years in an institution, I didn't really fancy doing that sort of thing. Along comes the army. They did all the adverts, travel the world, play sports, learn a trade, meet people. man, this was living. I thought to myself, yeah, this sounds fantastic, you know. And so I went into the Army's careers office, spoke to them up there, and they said, well, listen, son, you can be a pioneer. I said, no, I want to be a data telegraphist. Now, I didn't know what data telegraphy was, but it sounded great. It sounded fantastic. Looked down, said, I want to be a data telegraphist. They said I couldn't. I took the test. I passed the test, which was amazing because I wasn't very academic at the time. I passed the test and I enrolled into the Army in 1975. And I was really quite excited to be there because, as I said, you know, here I was going from one institution into another. And I remember one of the first days up there, we were called up by a sergeant major, and each of us had to make our beds. Now, they were doing hospital turns. You had to have like sacks and hospital turns, nice and neat.
Yeah.
Now, coming from the home, I could do that.
Top
all the other
man.
boys, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But all the other boys, they couldn't do it, and they were sort of like crying, mummy, mummy, mummy. I wasn't crying. I was doing it, and for once in my life, I was a top dog. Everyone thought, Akabusi knows something.
Were they happy times in the Army? And I ask that because so much is made, especially at the moment, of race discrimination cases and race abuse and whatever in the services. Did you experience anything like that, a hard time?
Yeah, I mean, I would be telling porkies if I said I did not experience race discrimination in the Army. I do also think, though, that 15 years ago, we accepted a lot more than would be acceptable today. You know, I've been called your black bees, I've been called your coons and all that sort of stuff. It's just part and parcel of living in the Army. And, you know, there were times when I didn't like it, but I always got on with it because I figured out this was life, you know, and I could sit there and cry and mope about it, or I could get on with it. I've been quite resilient in my life, and I got on with it. And I used to want to show the people, okay, I'll show you, I'm better than you, mate. Come on then, what is it you think you can do? Let's go, let's rock, let's rumble. And so my way of getting on with it was just showing that I was as good as the people.
Well, you were able to do that okay. I mean, in between folding down beds, being champion at that, and data telegraphy, who then said, hey, you can run?
Well, when I was up in Newcastle doing my basic training, and there was a guy there called Sergeant Ian Mackenzie, and he'd been an Army champion. Wasn't the current Army champion, but had been the Army champion. And he used to train every sort of day up in the airfield. And when I was doing my PE, he saw me and said, "Oh, Akabusi, you're quite handy. You know, you look like you can fly." Anyway, I went up there and I was training him, talking to him about my athletics and talking to me about his athletics really. And then he said to me, "Okay, Akabusi, I want to get down to do some SEER training. Nice speaking to you. See ya." Straight away, I opened my legs, boom, flew past him. He said, "Akabusi, I'm supposed to be the athlete around here." And from that moment on, he took me under his wing, and he used to live in Bedale, and we just went training at the weekends. And at the end of that year, I was the Army Junior Champion, and my athletic career really started from there.
Chris Akabusi, the coloured athlete there in lane 3, wearing number 1, the Army man, the Army sergeant, comes off the bend remarkably well. He's got Alan Slack from Wakefield outside him, and this is a keenly contested race. Alan Slack from Wakefield getting ahead of Akabusi, and all the bigger names are in their wake. Steve Hurd is making up third, but Alan Slack's going to make it, I think. He staggers to the line from Akabusi.
How did you then adapt to Civvy Street?
Well, it was quite interesting, really, because, you know, I had, for a long time, wanted to leave the Army, but I was quite scared of leaving the Army because there's a lot of security there. But really, I was fortunate because by now I was a household name, I was earning money from track and field athletics, and really it looked quite exciting. I knew that if I was going to get on to the next level, sort of world-class level, I was going to have to leave the Army. So, because you know the Army's great, but after a while, the Queen still wants a shilling. And there's no way that I could keep going away, woman training to California for 6 months, come back running around the world, and not doing my Army soldier, my duties. So the choice was quite simple, really. If I wanted to get on in athletics, I was going to have to bite the bullet. Excuse the pun.
Yes. You decided to spit it out.
and go and sort of like do athletics full time. So it was quite exciting for me, a real exciting time.
Yeah, and it really worked out well. 1984 and the real big time, Los Angeles Olympics.
Now, when I was a kid, I used to read comics, and we was going to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And Los Angeles for me was the home of Superman and Spider-Man and Gotham City in New York, Batman and all that sort of stuff. And here I was going to America. It was a fantastic, phenomenal time. And so I went there and I really savoured the atmosphere. I mean, Los Angeles was also the very first commercial games. And so, you know, we saw all the commercial side of sport. And all the things
sponsorship.
All the sponsorship, exactly. All the
yes,
razzmatazz.
yes.
You know, I mean, I don't know if you can remember the guy flying into the stadium with his
jetpack. Yeah.
Sort of it was razzmatazz. It was, hey, this is the big time. Now, I actually did very, very well when I went to the Olympic Games, but I really, really savoured 1984 for the razzmatazz.
In keeping with your personality, Chris, you strike me as a man who really doesn't like to stay still at all, that almost relishes a challenge. And despite all the success that you had at British level, at Olympic level, at Commonwealth World level, you then decided to change from being a sprinter to being a hurdler. Why?
Well, I think I also like to be in the picture. And what I found myself happening in 1986 is that, yeah, I'd had a great career as a former flat runner, but the new kids were coming on the block.
The competition in the individual event is now so fierce, Akabusi has decided to give it up and switch to the 400 hurdles. But technique takes a little time.
Chris Akabusi, take 2. They'll love it. They'll love it, they just got it.
He hopes, however, to still be considered for the relay squad.
All of a sudden I realised there was this competition. These people were running half a second faster than what I could run. So my chances of wanting to be a flat runner was history. I went to European Championships, I saw the 800 metres. McKean, Cocram, first 3 in the European Championships, best in the world. I couldn't be an 800 metre runner. But when I saw the 400 hurdles, not one British guy got past the first round. And I knew I could get knocked out in the first round like anybody else. And so I really thought to myself, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity to really continue as an athlete. Here's an opportunity to really move on in an event. And you know, there's a saying, you either adapt to a scenario or you die. And my scenario was, the 400 metres was too good for me, and there was an event at 400 hurdles which had nobody at what I call world-class level. I could run quick at the flat. Could I make the change to the hurdles? And
when was the first verification or confirmation that you had made the right choice and that you could do it at the top level?
Well, I suppose in a way when I went to California and trained with Edwin Moses, and that's a good person to ask some advice from, and he reckoned that, I had the ability. I trained with Mark Whittenham, and he was a good British hurdler. He reckoned I had the ability. Certainly, by 1990, when I went to the European Championships, I went in there as favourite, but going in there as favourite and winning are two different things. I went there as favourite, I came and I won that event, which was what everybody expected. But what I never expected was that I was to break a record that stood for 22 years.
Gets them away first time, and he'll be the first to rise. And going very quickly indeed is Nylander now down the back straight, but Akabusi into the second hurdle, closing on him and leaving Valentine slightly behind. Also going well in lane number 2 is Diagana of France. Akabusi, though, is really attacking the Swede now. He's up with Nylander, but the man to watch is Vollind inside Akabusi. He's still got a lot to do, but Akabusi's really gambled in the opening stages. He's got 3 hurdles left. He's got the lead. Can he last it out? Safely over that, and Vollin's a long way behind, but Nyberger's coming back. Nylander, and it's Akabusi now being roared on by the crowd. He's got a big lead, and he's got it right. Akabusi comes home to take the gold for Great Britain. Nylander for Sweden. And in third place, Vollind of Sweden. And the gold medal run by Akabusi breaks the longest standing track record in the British record book, set by David Hemery when he won the gold medal in 1968. 47.93, the 11th fastest of all time. He's realised what he's done. He's the new European champion and the new British record holder. And he's broken 48 for the first time and written off the longest standing track record in the British books.
Man, it was fantastic. I don't know if you can remember, but when I did that, I went running around the track like this, yeah! Got absolutely mad, I couldn't believe it, this was me, Akabusi, oh, go mad. And I went down like this and just said, naturally said a little prayer to God and said, just Lord, I can't believe this is absolutely phenomenal. This is me, Akabusi. I was going absolutely loopy. The crowd going, yeah, Chris, we saw. I said, I broke the record, yeah, we saw, I broke the record. It was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, then I knew Akabusi had arrived.
If you hadn't have been a runner, what do you think you would have been? I mean, given the choice, you could wave a magic wand. What
well, I always wanted to score the goal in the cup final. I wanted to play centre forward for West Ham United. I wanted to be the new Clyde Best. And I wanted to be out there knocking in the big goal there and everyone going, yeah, Akabusi. But actually, finally, now that I've become an athlete and I've seen footballers, I wouldn't change it for a thing.
Why?
Well, what I found in athletics, it's down to you. You stand and fall by your own fen. I like that.
Unless, of course, you're in something like the relay. And we'll talk about one relay in particular. Again, one which I think pleased you greatly. 1991 Tokyo World Championships.
Yeah. Well, but again, you say, yeah, but okay, the relay is a team event, but you still got like-minded people, because you don't get into the British 4x4 relay team by being anything other than a hard-working, industrious, focused, awe-inspiring athlete. You've really got to really want it. In athletics, in a relay team, you've got 4 people, all who will cut that heart out for you. And so when we went to Tokyo in 1991, we had 4 people who were ready to do or die. And we had Roger Black, who was a European champion for the 400 metres. We had Derek Redmond, who we used to call Captain Courageous, because he was a real courageous runner. He was injured so many occasions, but we knew he'd cut his heart out for us. We had Johnny Two-Chest Regis, European champion for the 200 metres, 200 metres flat. We had myself, the 400 metre European champion. 4 guys, all focused, all ready to grit their teeth for the country.
But that wasn't just it. 4 great guys. There was something that got up your noses.
Yeah, oh, you bet, you bet.
There must have been.
You bet. The American team, man. You know, we all week, the American team, management, administrators, everywhere went again. Hey, man, we're going to whoop your butt, man. You can't run with us, man. You're not to be on the same track as us, man. You Brits don't know how to run with a stick, man. They were hammering us all week. And we were saying, man, we're ready. We're ready. We're ready. We're going to kick your butt, man. Hopefully I'm not swearing too. I hope I'm not swearing. But, you know, that's what they were saying to us. And so, you know, come the night of the final, we were really wound up. We were thinking, well, how are we going to take on these guys? And obviously we came up with a plan. And our plan was to put our best man, Roger Pretty Boy Black, first. You know what I'm saying?
Who ran last?
Hey! What's going on, Huggy Bear? You know?
You want to hear his explanation of why you ran last, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they put the old man on last leg. I mean, it was a real daring and
plan.
unique plan.
You took the action to them. You gave them something to worry about.
We decided if we put our best man first, we'd be in the dance from the beginning. I mean, if you watch international athletics prior to then, it was always, you know, you put your best man in the last leg, and normally because of that, the Americans were up by 5, 6, 7 metres on the first leg, 10 by the second leg. All she wrote.
But the controversial choice, the change of order confirmed. Black on the first, the difficult first leg, run in lanes. Redmond, the UK record holder, coming back to form all the time. They decided not to risk on the first leg. They thought, after so many injuries, that he was better on a rolling start. John Regis rarely runs 400 metres, but he was the fastest man in the team when they set the European record and won the gold medals in the European Championships in Split 12 months ago. And on the anchor leg, the British record holder, the European champion, the Commonwealth champion in the 400 metres hurdles, and the bronze medalist in that event here as well, Chris Akabusi.
I actually think when the Americans saw our running plan, they thought we were nuts.
Yes.
Because on their last leg, they had the newly crowned world champion, Mr. Antonio Pettigrew. And then you had this Akabusi, who could only get a 3rd medal in the 400 hurdles. It does not compute. But you see, you can't, having had 12 years experience now running international athletics, I knew a bit about running the last leg. I'd seen Phil Brown do it, I'd seen Roger Black do it, and I was also very confident, having trained with Roger. Now, Roger came second to Antonio Pettigrew. I trained with Roger. I've been neck and neck with Roger on many, many occasions in training session. I knew I could hang with the best man in the world, but I didn't know that.
And Regis can't quite get there. America will take over in the lead with their world champion Pettigrew on the anchor leg. Akabusi goes after him. The difference is 3 metres. Now Akabusi has got to sit there and wait and make a late attack if he can. But he's up against the man who is the world champion. The race between the two of them, and the leg by Regis 44.3. And still Akabusi waits. Pettigrew with goal behind him in the individual event. Akabusi, bronze in the 400 hurdles. Here he goes. This is the important point. Can Akabusi do it? Akabusi has a go, and the American is beaten. And he's fighting back. Akabusi has made it. Akabusi, gold for Britain. America second, and Jamaica third. And the time, 2:57.54, a new British, a new Commonwealth, a new European record, and the gamble paid off.
It was fantastic, man! Tell me about it! It was absolutely superb. It was absolutely superb. It was superb, honestly. It's just like, I mean, we dream about it now, we talk about it now. It was absolutely superb. And so on last day, Pettigrew was nodding like this with a little head like that, and I'm cueing onto his board. I think to myself, can I hang on into the home straight? I see Steve nodding like that. He gives gas. I said, see ya, boom, I'm running towards the line, bam. I'll tell you what, how electric was it when everyone was going mad, the crowd, the photographers, everyone's going mad, except for the 4 individual Americans.
Who's the new guy on the last leg?
He's the old man in the team. Yeah, I mean, all credit to the guys, because every single one did their job. And okay, you get the last leg, it looks like a glory leg, but you got to admit the guys did everything right. And for me, it was just a case of tactics. I pressured him a little bit on the 200 metres mark to let him know I'm there. And after that, he had hard work, because he had to hold that curve. So he did all the hard work around the curve, and I just rolled off him.
Let me bring you on to the next year, 1992, the Barcelona Olympics. Yeah. 2 bronze medals for you then. Why then call it a day after that?
After 1991, I had a great couple of years. European champion 1990, here I was now world champion with the other 4 guys in the 3 guys in the 4x4. Where could I go from there? I was actually becoming to get a little bit tired. I've really enjoyed my athletic career. I smiled my way through it. But 1992, all that year, it was very, very tough anyway. It was very tough to train, to get yourself up to race with the best guys. So I'm going into the Olympic Games thinking to myself, this is it, this is my last year. But if I had any doubts, that race certainly made up my mind.
Away first time. Akabusi going away strongly after Diagana, the Frenchman. Kevin Young going well, and Winthrop Graham, the Jamaican. He's leading slightly at the moment. Dave Patrick going well, Diagana going well. Patrick now being run down. And Akabusi really having to work now. Kevin Young's gone past him, and Graham's chasing Kevin Young, the tall American champion, in the lead at the moment. Akabusi still in there, battling and fighting, and his strength is in the last 50 or 60 metres. Diagana of France is in, but this is Kevin Young. And Chris Akabusi in 3rd place at the moment. Winthrop Graham in the silver medal position. Kevin Young from Winthrop Graham. And Chris Akabusi takes bronze, and the world record has gone.
Phenomenal. Blasts out the record books. It deletes Edwin Moses, the greatest exponent this world has ever seen over 400 hurdles. Kevin Young, the new man. And I realised that at 33, 34 years of age, I didn't have enough years to catch up that sort of distance. I was out of here.
You were out of there. Did you worry about life away from the track?
Not particularly. Again, I was very fortunate to be doing athletics in my era, because in my era we had Dave Thompson, Seb Coe, Steve Cram, Steve Ovett, great athletes, Tessa Sanderson, who had brought athletics from the 3rd or 4th page on the back to sometimes headline news. And so we all got a big profile. We all people were interested in who we were, and people picked up on my personality, and I started getting more and more invites to be a guest on shows. And I began to like this medium called TV, and TV fortunately liked me. And so I was quite confident that when I retired, there would be a place for me. I began to do a lot of speaking engagements. So I was quite confident that there was more to life than just running around a track. And so I moved on. And very fortunate for me, as soon as I retired, the Big Breakfast gave us a call. They were doing an athletic week in August. Chris Evans wasn't there. I did that for a week. That went down very, very well. Record Breakers gave us a call. I did that for 5 consecutive years, and that went down very, very well. And I just slipped seamlessly from athletics into the TV world. And I can't say I really made a beeline for it. It's just that people kept on phoning me up and saying, Chris, will you do this, will you do that? My laugh got me a long way. Yeah. I think that got me a long way, yeah.
Well, the laugh is something we've heard a good few times so far during the programme. And another word that you've used a few times is confidence, or confident, having it. Now, I just wonder, in your darker moments, are there darker moments? I mean, what is the dark side to Chris Akabusi like?
Oh, sure. I mean, my wife always laughs when everyone says, "Oh, Chris, he's always happy, he's always lucky, and he's always smiling," because she knows the other side. I'm not always happy and always go lucky, always smiling. I am a thoughtful person. Sometimes I think that people just see all the froth and bubble and think, "Oh, Akabusi is just a sort of an ephemeral, light sort of guy." But actually, underneath that froth and bubble, there are deep waters. I do a lot of thinking. I'm a Christian. I get challenged in my life. I see the darker side of me, my sinful nature, and I'm challenged with that at times. You know, when I say get through depressions, I'm not really deep depressions, but I get moments where I'm melancholy. You know, I've got a lovely dog, I walk my dog, and for an hour I can be thinking about serious issues that are going on in my life, serious issues with the relationships I've got going around me, serious issues about my family, where we're going, where we're coming from. So yeah, there is a darker, more melancholy, more thoughtful side to me that the public don't see, because the lens doesn't want to see that. The lens wants to see what you see now. And I don't put this on. This is me, but the other side is just as much to me. And often when people who are closer to me see the other side, they say to me, well, Chris, what's up? What's wrong? I say, there's nothing wrong. You know, I might be sitting there and I might not be laughing, I might be thinking, I might be pensive and thoughtful, you know, and I don't say anything, and I might not say anything for a couple of hours. I'm not being rude, I'm not blanking at anybody, I'm just thinking. And people look at me and say, Chris, what's up? Is there anything
It's
wrong?
almost as if you're not entitled to that time because
Exactly.
you're Chris Akabusi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, there's another side to me that people don't see.
Chris, so many people featured in the series have talked about faith in themselves. Now, you've just mentioned faith in another being, faith in a superior being, faith in God. Do you think, obviously you had the faith in yourself as an athlete, but do you strongly believe that God was guiding you and that you achieved your success because of God?
I've got no doubt. I mean, I think that, you know, my success came because I began to believe, when I say that I was an instrument of God, I was nothing special, but I began to believe that God had given me a talent, that God gave me this to express something, to be able to speak about him to people. I used to go to schools and colleges and universities and talk about my love of God, my love of Christ. And I felt that God had given me this talent. You know, I wasn't bang. I don't need to bang the pulpit and wave the Bible, but just by being me, being who I am, and saying, yeah, look, I've got my foibles, I've got my weaknesses, but God still loves me. And if God can love me, he can also love you. You know, and I really did feel that God gave me that talent and gave me the opportunity so I could witness in that way.
What about, there's another change coming up in your life now. I mean, you know, the years ahead, looking ahead the next, you know, maybe 10 years or so, how do you see it for you?
Well, short term, I want to move from children's entertainment, which I've been doing over the last 5 years, into light entertainment. I know that there's a budding actor in here. I know that I can sing and I can dance and I can do variety. And I would love the opportunity to get into light entertainment. And in fact, I'm now speaking to people about that very opportunity. But long term, what I would really love to do is be a awe-inspiring, life-changing catalyst for change in the country of my origin, Nigeria. My mother, who passed away a couple of years ago, became a matron and did a lot of good work for a small community in Nigeria. She's passed away and her hospital is derelict. And I'd really love to think that with all the influence and contacts I've made in this country, that I can do something really life-changing in Nigeria by having a vibrant, active maternal hospital in Nigeria and being maybe director of it and organise it and make sure it's got the funding to really be a life-changing effect for the area, community in Nigeria.
If at the end of the day, people were to remember you, say, for that, as opposed to everything you achieved on the track,
I tell you what, that would be superb. That would be superb because you know, it's been fantastic what I've done for myself in athletics. And every day people tell me, Chris, you gave me so much pleasure. But you know, I think something like nursing, when you're actually saving lives, when you actually, you know, really do meaningful stuff. Athletics was meaningful for me. And it's nice for you to watch it on television and get some sort of vicarious pleasure from watching it. But actually to actually know that you, by doing something, you've actually saved a life. I mean, if I could actually supersede everything I've done by that, then I've really arrived.
Well, you certainly have given us a lot of pleasure this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed for talking to me, Chris.
Cheers,
Thank you
Eamon.
very much.